It's summer vacation, and the 8-year-old Wes Moore is enjoying sleeping in until the phone rings at 9 a.m., waking him. It's his brother Tony, looking for their mom Mary. She isn't home. In fact, nobody is. Wes is left to take care of himself all day. Tony's hanging out a lot over at Murphy Homes, a place of ill repute, made up of urine-scented stairwells, gun-toting teens, druggies, and Tony's dad. The conversation between Tony and Wes turns to education. Wes doesn't seem to be motivated enough to go to their middle school, comprised of a 99% black student population. Wes isn't the best student in school, but he keeps to himself, so he stays out of trouble and away from academic expectations. Tony feels as though Wes needs a better life than he does. You see, Tony's 14 years old, and he's already pretty high up in the ranks of the gang scene. At this point, Tony has already taken over both West and part of East Baltimore, selling drugs. They hang up, and then Wes gets another call from Woody, the neighbor kid from the third neighborhood Mary moved her kids to. So it went like this. Mary moved her children from Pennsylvania Avenue to Cherry Hill to escape Wes's dad. Then from Cherry Hill, an impoverished, drug-ridden place that was so dangerous, little kids couldn't even swing on the 3 forever empty swings on the playground. So yeah, from there to Northwood, an upper-class neighborhood comprised of black professionals who graduated from the nearby colleges. Although Mary only rented her home, amongst all the neighbors who owned their houses, she still was doing better than she had in Cherry Hill. Wes runs out to play with Woody after putting on his gear. Woody is an interesting specimen for Wes to observe. He's the only kid Wes knows who has both his parents actively caring for him and living with him happily. Wes finds this both fascinating and frustrating. They meet up with this kid they call White Boy. His real name's Paul. White Boy is a cool kid and they all get along great. They meet up with a group of kids to play a game of pickup football. Wes gets a little too aggressive with one of the boys, who's much smaller and weaker than he is. They end up getting into a fight, and then, boom! Wes gets clocked in the mouth. His lip starts gushing blood, and Wes goes running home to recover mentally and physically. His ego's just as bruised as his lip is. While at home, holding a paper towel to his lip to soak up all the blood, a phrase of Tony's begins to run through his head. Rule number 1. If somebody disrespects you, you send a message so fierce that they won't have a chance to do it again. Tony ingrained this message into Wes with staged fights where Wes would defend himself against members of Tony's gang. Wes takes this to heart, and he's so mad and he's bent on sending his message that he distracts Woody and leaves the house with a knife to retaliate. But what Wes didn't know was that the neighbors called the cops. Wes could only focus on his anger, and he never heeded the cops' warning to stop until his face is slammed into the back of the police car and his little wrists put in handcuffs. His loyal friend Woody also gets handcuffed, and Tony's father is called and Wes goes home. His mother never learns that he was arrested, not until later on. So at this part in the chapter, we're now going to switch over to Author Wes's story. Author Wes's house is hot, like really hot. His mom isn't taking care of herself spiritually or physically since Wes's father passed away. She keeps vigil every night to defend against potential burglars, sleeping on the living room couch. She did this for 2 whole years after Wes's dad died. When he died, she used the settlement money to make equipment and training available to medical personnel to prevent epiglottitis from consuming other families' loved ones. One day, Joy decided to move the family to the Bronx with her parents. They packed up the house and left for New York. She talked up the Bronx as a place of safety and entertainment with a zoo and hospitable neighbors. But when they got there, it wasn't so. They moved to what Jimmy Carter, former American president, called, quote, a war zone. Wes saw the beginning of a drug deal on the street before even getting to his grandparents' hard-earned home on Paulding Avenue, which is now located in the midst of a drug and poverty-ridden area. Joy mentioned to her parents about a memorial she saw for a young girl, an unfortunate casualty named April. Wes's family struggled to make it in America, and this is unfortunately all they got. Despite their struggles, Wes's grandfather had a very interesting life in America. For years, he was friends with Kwame Nkrumah, who became the president of Ghana, and he received his degree in ministry, allowing him to become a leader in the Dutch Reformed Church. Wes is naive, and he doesn't understand the desolation of the city around him. When he finishes his chores, all he worries about is playing basketball. He fell in love with the Bronx basketball court after his first game with Oz and Deshaun. The court he finds is a place where everybody from all walks of life can be respected. The streetlights then go on, and Wes goes back home. Now that I've finished reviewing the chapter, I have a few questions that I think are important to reflect upon. My first question: why does Mary move somewhere that Tony can have access to his father and the Murphy home's destructive atmosphere? Question 2. Why is Tony's father allowing Tony to hang out at Murphy homes? And why did Tony's father not tell Mary about Wes's arrest? Question 3. Why doesn't Mary have more of an active role in her son's education if education is so important to her? Question 4. Why do Wes's grandparents stay in the Bronx, where children die and crack consumes many? And question 5, what makes these two boys different?